Hey, what's up, y'all? We are back with another 0 hour. Tim Lloyd, Jeff Hobbs, and Jeff. We are coming off of Aries 17, so we've got recap and reactions day here on the 0 hour. What went down this past Friday from the world famous Cotton Eye Joe in Knoxville. You can catch the replay, of course, on Spectation Sports, and here in 30 days, you can catch the fights right here on the 0 hour. So I'd encourage you to like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and that way you get notified when we put new content out. There'll be lots of it in the coming weeks. Jeff, a fun show at the Joe. As we kind of went into this one, kind of in a more laid back fashion. A lot more debuts and entry level guys on this card, but as predicted, they still delivered a really fun night of action.
Yeah, it's these are the ones that sneak up on you. Coming off the heels of a really big show in April, and it kind of toned it down purposely. Like I said, a lot of entry level guys, a lot of debuts, and honestly, a lot of guys, with some upside down records, but finally getting to face someone else, kind of with a similar record. So a lot of guys put in a position to where you have 0-1 versus 0-1, or an 0-1 versus 0-2, and somebody walking away knowing we're going to come out of this with our first win, and that made for some exciting fights. And like I said, just sneaks up on you. You think it's going to be kind of low key and maybe just a toned down show, if you will, not a lot of moving parts at the Joe. And then you happen to just kind of look around the bar, and you're like, where the hell did all these people come from?
Yeah.
And they were there to have a good time, and they were live. Our regular sponsors were there, some new sponsors, Frankie's Body Shop,
Yep.
commandeering a whole row of front row seats. We're having a blast. Had quite a few sales for this one at the door, and sales that didn't necessarily pinpoint a particular fighter. So a lot of people still just continuing to come to the Joe just to hang out for a fun night of fights.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, man. Not every card is going to be your stacked up amped or Aries 16 type lineups, and it's these kind of cards that you got to have them too. You got to these guys as they graduate on to bigger and better things. You got to be able to replenish the cupboard, if you will, and so that's where these guys come from in these starter shows. So let's get into it, man. Before we do, real quick shout out Smoky Mountain CBD, our presenting sponsor. Check them out at SmokyMountainCBD.com. All kinds of good Delta 9 and CBD products, all legal too, and they'll get you feeling right. Let's get into it, Jeff. We'll kind of just knock out the prelims all together. We had three of them. We had juniors Muay Thai opening us up at 130 pounds. Really fun fight. Trayton Byerly from London Martial Arts made his debut, got a split decision win over young Aiden Brown out of Odo Kwan Martial Arts down in Georgia. Split decision 29-28 two times, 28-29 the other way, of course. And these guys really got after it. I thought, the first round, Byerly was super impressive with his combinations. Really good hands, really tied things together well. I thought the third round he started to visibly begin to slow down, and Aiden Brown really coming on strong. So split decision, I've got no problem with that. Grappling bouts, our next two prelims, we had two grappling bouts. One between Team Chaos's Brandon Dougherty, as he made a quick turnaround and got a fairly quick win with a 59-second Darce over Logan Metters from Lawrenceburg Combat Club, and then of course Maynard in our second grappling bout got a toe hold victory over Lawrenceburg Combat Club's Jeff Jankowski, 7 minutes 21 seconds in a bout that was really pretty back and forth. I think people may have kind of slept on Jankowski a little bit in this one, with Maynard kind of being a grappling specialist, but he gave him all he wanted, man. And talking to Maynard afterward, he was like, "Man, that dude's strong, and like I wouldn't want to like fight that guy." So a pretty good showing, I thought, for both guys. Your take on the prelims? What stood out to you?
Yeah, as expected, the kids bring it, man. The juniors bring it.
Yeah,
I was still kind of in that startup mode when this one started, and kind of stepped in about halfway into the second round, and that was about when I guess Aiden Brown really started coming on. So I had missed the first half, and you were explaining to me like, holy shit, this is the tale of two fights here. Like, it was, trying to catch me up to speed on it. So I was definitely intrigued hearing from you how that first round went, most of the second round, and then I'm watching what's going on in the third round, and it looked nothing like what you were saying
Right.
happened in the first two rounds. So once again, very impressed by these two young fighters. As it seems we're saying that every time the juniors step in, how impressed we are at their training and how far along they are at their age, and also impressed with their fan bases. Trayton Byerly, arguably one of the biggest pops of the night
Yeah.
to open the show, had a lot of people there supporting him. So, but both these guys just not only look good, obviously we watched the fight; they look good in the cage and in the competition. But you knew when they came in. Um, I know Tim, you didn't get to come to weigh-ins, but as soon as they were over, I know you watched at home or watched on your phone or whatever.
Mhm.
And one of the first things you said was, "Holy shit, those two kids are put together. Like they
Mhm.
look good." And they did. They not only looked good in the cage, but just their whole presentation. You knew from the get-go that they were probably going to bring it. So awesome way to start out a show. And then I'm really starting to enjoy these grappling matches when we put them on, just because of how we've kind of decided to handle grappling. Grappling's, like I said, it's a chess game. If you're a practitioner, you love them. If you're a fan, really a fan of BJJ, you love them. Um, but for the common person watching them, sometimes it gets a little quiet because everybody's really zoned in on the technique, and it's just kind of that weird vibe while you're watching a grappling match. And so we decided quite a few shows ago that we were going to make grappling matches just a little funner, and so a little more fun. So we cranked the music, man, and that just kind of gives the grappling a whole different feel. And you see them uh, really just flowing with the music while it's playing and really enjoying it. A little ACDC comes on, and all of a sudden, starts kicking up the action a notch. And so the whole atmosphere around our grappling matches are really fun nowadays. Was glad to see Brandon Dougherty after a really tough outing his first time with us. Um, one, come out with a win, but one that his fan base did not let him down. They came out strong for his MMA debut with us. And you're always afraid that maybe you let them down a little bit. Are they going to come back and support me the way they did? And they absolutely did. And so it was awesome to see them, stick behind him, and then him get to walk away with a win. And then, like you said, Jeff Jankowski made no bones about it. He's like, there are parts of my game that I want to work on. He's like, I wanted to get this grappling match in just so I can concentrate and see where I am just on that discipline without having to worry about this happening or this happening or this happening. He did mention to me afterwards while at the Moonshine Bar that he wants to get in just a straight boxing match at some point soon, just to work on that and see where he's at and not have to worry about other things. So it's pretty cool that he did that. But Josh Maynard, like I said, this is his wheelhouse. Uh, this is the table he eats at all the time. So pulling out a toe hold. I think Jankowski, when I was looking at his Facebook post or something, almost laughing at himself. Just that I lost to a fucking toe hold. You know,
Yeah.
uh, and so especially after the war he was just in to be have to post. Yeah, I lost to it. Something called a toe hold.
Mm.
But
Josh didn't think he was going to tap. He said he had it
yeah,
on him for a long time.
yeah, and but Josh also made it, like you said, made it very clear, like that was one strong bull that I was trying to wrangle in there. He said his strength surprised me, and Lord help me had he been able to punch me in some of those positions because he was so strong. So I think everybody in that, I think both parties in that grappling match got exactly what they were looking for out of it.
Moving on to the undercard portion, we had a lot of quick finishes in this one. Well, one went to the second round, but we started off with a catchweight bout, 140 pounds. Cameron Maddox and Austin Lewis. Cameron Maddox making his debut out of Maryville, helped us on the Cage Crew down in Chattanooga, and came out. It looked good, man. He got a 26-second win by guillotine over Austin Lewis in the very first round. So he gets to 1-0. Actually dropped Austin early, and I thought maybe he had him a little knockout, but a good non-stoppage by the referee as Austin was able to kind of get his bearings. And that was a lot of action, I guess, really kind of jammed into 26 seconds. Noah Basinger with a win after that over Jacob Seymour, second round TKO, minute 28 seconds in. That was at 135 pounds. Basinger moves to 1-1. from Rowan Wrestling. Really good looking performance here from him over a tough Jacob Seymour out of the returning Cook's Impact team. It was really good to see those guys. Coach Mark Cook, it's been several years, and this is his new crop, as we talked about. Jacob Seymour, a three-time Georgia state champion wrestler, coming into this, and Basinger really. Basinger also a wrestler, but maybe not quite as credentialed. And man, he looked really good out there. Got a second round TKO, ground and pound over Jacob Seymour to even it up at 1-1. We'll go in twos here. I'll go ahead and get your take on these two.
Yeah, Maddox was a ball of nerves. I think
To
from the
say the
moment,
least.
yeah, from the moment he arrived at weigh-ins, kind of he was one of the first ones in the door, kind of pacing around, checking his weight over and over. I think I saw him biting his fingernails a few times. Kid was definitely I don't want to say nervous. He was definitely anxious about getting this thing. And Austin Lewis, just because of circumstances, had to do a same day weigh in, and so Maddox was nervous. Is he even coming? Am I this nervous for nothing? Is he not even showing up? But Austin Lewis there was early on Saturday and did what he agreed to do. So thank you so much for Austin Lewis for coming through. But yeah, Cameron connected early, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And I think even Cameron was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, I think
I
so too.
dropped him. Yeah, but he looked good. The kid looked good, man. I think hopefully after this one he'll calm down. Now he knows how how the process goes, the cadence goes, and maybe he'll be a little less anxious the next time around. But young kid that hopefully there's a future in it, and maybe in between fights he'll continue to help us out on the cage crew because he's a hell of a good worker too.
No doubt.
The Slim Reaper and Jacob Seymour. Um, yeah, did I know we're going to get ready to talk about it in a minute. At this point in the bout, did Cooks know what was happening later in the bout yet? Yeah. So
Yeah, we started to kind of cross that bridge right at the end of the prelims.
right. So I was worried, coming in, like, is this throwing everybody off? Right there.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but Basinger looked good. The Slim Reaper at this point is 1-1 now,
Yeah,
correct?
one on
Yeah,
one,
one
yeah.
on one. So in my mind, I'm watching this fight, and as good as Basinger looked, I'm thinking, I'm putting myself in your shoes, and I'm thinking, okay, we just had Everhart upset Shires, but Shires went up to 45. Shires wants to go back to his natural weight of 35. We've got this little thing now with Rowan getting one up on Shires, and I'm sure Shires would like that one back, but maybe at his natural weight. So I'm thinking, okay, Basinger Shires, something that could look good in the future.
Hmm.
And I kind of put that one in my back pocket as I was watching this fight unfold and seeing Basinger come out with the dub. So maybe that's something you can hold on to there, Tim, and think about in the future. But Basinger looked good. Jacob Seymour, though, looked really good as well. I mean, I thought he had a good showing. Like I said, made it to the second round. But the Cooks guys had a tough night all around. Just not necessarily what happened in the cage, but what they were dealing with to get into the cage as a coaching staff and as a team. So I'm sure Jacob Seymour will come back. They were great guys to work with from the moment they
Real
walked in.
young bucks,
Yeah,
good shape, good condition, well
yeah,
built.
yeah. And their team, their coaches, and everybody was just really, really nice to work with and classy. So I hope that they, stick with this, stick with us, and come back again.
Up next, we had a 205-pound bout and more MMA. It was two guys looking for their first win. I know they were both hungry for it. James Arden of the titular team Arden comes in to face Noah Park in this one. Arden comes in 0-3, Park 0-1. Park not able to get the win this time. James Arden gets the win, and he got 54-second knockout here. Against Noah. This one was pretty much all standing the entire time. A lot of circling by both guys. Arden Arden seemed real tight, tense in the early going. Once he started to loosen up, was able to connect and drop and finish. Noah Parks moved to 1-3. And then, of course, thinking about Cameron Maddox is like, this is not necessarily the best group to calm one's nerves going into their first fight, because these guys are like, "No, dude, you're here. We're gonna fight in this fucking cage here, and you're gonna go in here and you're gonna kick his ass," But Arden has been through that fire several times already against some really tough guys. So good to see him get that first win. Noah Park, I talked to him afterward, and disappointed obviously, but seemed to still have his spirits up. I told him, ultimately he's going to need to probably get down a weight class or two. He's young enough to where he's still got some time to make some moves. And then rounding out the undercard heavyweights, Sherman Washington, Garrett Bishop. Washington comes in at 1-0 out of Powell's MMA down in Alabama. Not Jeff Powell's, but Mr. Harry Powell, Coach Harry Powell's gym. And Garrett Bishop making his debut by way of our pals over at the Tennessee Army National Guard. We looked at we knew that there was going to be some size discrepancy, coming in just from like recollection of working with Sherman and running across Garrett like at events and whatnot. But like then when I saw the pictures at the weigh-in, I'm like, oh shit, man! Like he's like way bigger than him. This is gonna be tough action here for old Sherman. He probably thinks we've thrown him in the river here. And I think a lot of people were surprised at the Joe that night as big Garrett Bishop, just a hulking man, quite the physical specimen, very imposing. And man, he went for a ride 2 or 3 times. Sherman Washington, big suplexes, big takedown slams, and was honestly fairly dominant here in getting a first round finish with an armbar at 1 minute and 41 seconds in. Moves to 2-0. Hopefully to see Garrett Bishop again. I think, I think everybody was just maybe a little shell shocked there, but obviously Garrett's well built for it. You can tell he's strong as an ox, and I'd like to see him give it another go here. And as for Sherman, sky's the limit, huh?
Yeah, yeah. No matter which way we were going to go on that Noah Park James Arden, you were going to be happy for definitely happy for both of them to compete, but you knew you were going to be happy for one of them to get that dub. And Arden was on cloud 9. I mean, he was so upset that there was no more Twisted TKO belt when he found out. I think he was a little bit of why he stuck around, was thinking it was coming, and I was hurt to have to explain to him that that was just it was a short term thing that was not long term. But he was. I didn't leave there until well after midnight. And he was still walking on cloud 9 through there. So it was good for him to see him and his team. Was that his dad with him in the cage afterwards? Pictures, I think.
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was. I felt like it was watching them because he had that proud papa thing going on. So it was really good to watch that. As far as, like I said, just that wow moment or the oh shit moment was definitely the Sherman Washington Garrett Bishop fight. Again, at weigh-ins, Sherman gets called up on the stage first. He weighs in 217 pounds. Call up Garrett Bishop. Nobody knows who Garrett Bishop is. It's the first time he's ever been, at an event or competed. And then he gets on the stage, and you kind of hear the gasps and the whispers and the like, oh shit, look at this guy, and look at the size difference, like you said. And it was almost kind of that, what the hell y'all doing to Sherman Washington kind of vibe going on. And even Sherman's coach, not in a negative way, he was just like, dang, he missed weight. And I was like, what? He said, he missed weight. It's heavy. It's a heavyweight fight. He's like, it was just funny the way he missed weight. Like, he was so damn bigger. And, and to be fair, Garrett, had told us that he was probably going to be around 230. I think he kind of was just, he's never done this before. And I think, maybe he thought too much about, or not thought too much, but thought maybe the weight cut in trying to get slim was a little easier than what it probably truly was when you're that big. But he came in at 147, I think, 146, 147. So big size difference in height, big size difference in weight. And I started feeling a certain way about it going in because I really like these Powell guys. And they're super, super nice. And you start worrying, like, please, I hope you don't think this guy's a debut. I hope you don't think we brought in some ringer or something and done you dirty.
And if I
Because
could interject, like
yeah,
I put 205 on the table like multiple times. Like
yeah,
they do not want to cut weight. Like they do not want to go to
right.
205.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
proceed.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so it's very interesting. But what you and I did talk about was, and just I don't think maybe a lot of people were looking at is, Garrett Bishop is not a trained fighter. He's not in a
Right.
traditional gym. He's getting Army combatives, which no knock on Army combatives, but he's not getting mixed martial arts training. He's not training every discipline. He is a street fighter. He is tough. He's one hell of a tough guy. But we discussed that was going to be the equalizer. That's what brought this size difference back even again,
Mm-hmm.
was trained versus untrained. And I talked to some of his National Guard guys the next day on the way home, on the drive home, and that's kind of, and they agreed that's what it boiled down to: trained versus untrained. And that's kind of what that's what you're going to see in those situations. But like you said, I think Garrett realizing now, looking in hindsight, um, nobody's really going to stand in there and just trade with you. You're a big guy. Um, at this level, there's nothing to prove. It's all about the win. They're not going to stand and just plant their feet in the middle of the cage and slug it out. They're trying to win, and they're going to take you into deeper waters that maybe you'll feel uncomfortable in. So maybe next time, if you go into it with this knowledge now that you've gained from this one fight, you won't look for the knockout. You'll let the knockout come to you by defending takedowns, getting your position, and then just let those things kind of come to you and happen. So, but Sherman Washington now, um, I don't know. I don't know where you go with him as a matchmaker, Tim. Like you said, the fact that they won't drop to 205, but he's such a small heavyweight, and we just really don't have a lot of heavyweights right now. And the heavyweights we do have, or that have competed with us, can and will make 205 when we ask or when need be. And that's their preference. They're only doing heavyweight out of necessity.
Maybe I just
Um,
need to ask nicer again. Maybe
yeah,
I need
I
to.
don't
Maybe I
know.
need to. Maybe I need to get the prod out a little bit towards 205
Maybe.
again.
Well, and and again, I hate to do this to our good friend Luke Wilson, as far as even putting this out into the ether, because I know he wants a fight with Finn Martin really bad. But Finn is a guy that falls in that weird where he is a
Mm-hmm.
really small heavyweight, will compete at heavyweight, but he would be right there at that same 215, 217 weight class that Sherman is. So maybe that's not something we look at right away, but maybe out of necessity at some point, if Sherman is still wanting to just stay at heavyweight where he's at, maybe Finn gets to a point where maybe there's just not something in the light heavyweight division for him, and as he has in the past, willing to stand in at heavyweight.
Black Cowboy, another guy that could potentially be, a smaller heavyweight guy that
That's
is
right.
that would line up and be a fun
That's
one
right.
potentially there for
We
Sherman.
did, because Julian was in that cruiserweight
Mm-hmm.
fight that we had. So yeah, yeah, maybe that's a. There you go, Tim.
That would be a fun one. Main card. All right. So this is where shit got funky, as we've alluded to already in the lead up here. Originally supposed to be a 125-pound MMA fight next between Camden Cook of Cook's Impact, the offspring of Coach Mark Cook, actually, making his debut against Justin Williams from Maryville BJJ. To preface, Justin Williams came in overweight. I'm hearing on Thursday. A very noticeable height and reach advantage, I'll say, first of all, for Justin Williams, almost as stunning as the heavyweight fight that we just talked about when you just look at it in pictures, although obviously not as thick, as the heavyweight, but a foot height, like a near a foot height, probably difference. And Williams, one of the the longer guys you're going to come across that weight. Anyway, so it had been negotiated that a point would be deducted for the weight miss. And then we get to the day of the show. Everyone's there for rules meeting. At this point, typically, I'm like, man, we got him here for the rules meeting. Then It's my job is done, and we don't got to worry about this anymore as far as putting no fights together. And so I get a message about man, maybe 10 minutes for the show starts. It wasn't long, right? We were about to start, and it is from the girlfriend of Justin Williams saying that he won't be coming back. And I guess I don't know that I should put his business out there in that regard. But Justin, long story
Uh,
short, isn't coming back. He had left the venue and was not coming back, and that's when the scramble began. It's been a while since I've had to really, roll like a true rabbit out of my hat there. So I go to inform Cook's Impact coach Mark Cook what's happened. And obviously, they've got a fairly decent amount of people that's driven up from Georgia to watch them compete. They have put in the time and effort in training camp in anticipation of this debut, and they want to fight still, So like, what can we do? I'm like, well, 125 pounds right now is going to be very difficult. There's not a whole lot of people in this building, male anyway, that are walking around at 125 pounds. Most of these guys are cutting to get to 125. So at that point, when 35 came into play, now to be forthright here, Camden at this point was over 125 himself the next day. It wasn't like he was still 125 pounds. He was, between 132, 135 pounds himself at this point. But it was like that huge of a gap. But so we begin the process. Scotty Everhart, bless him, he was ready to step in, but he was a little bit heavy. Obviously, he wasn't ready to fight that day. He didn't show up at the venue ready to fight. He was there to support his teammates, but more than willing to jump in there. But it's a bit too heavy. Right when it seemed like all hope was lost, we get word that there is a guy that never competed from Rowan Wrestling in the back named Nate Gould, and he was willing to kickbox at the last minute here against Cook, and Cook and his team were happy to get to do it at that point. So they would get an opportunity to compete. Regardless of what happened at that point, it wasn't going to go on their MMA record, but he was happy to get to go out there and compete in front of his fans and show what he's been working on, obviously. So at that point, we had a Muay Thai fight, and it was a 135-pound Muay Thai fight. Nate Gould versus Camden Cook. Fun fight, man. It was just a very noticeable reach and height discrepancy once again for Gould, who is going to be one of the tallest 135ers you're going to see. I would imagine. I mean, he's 6 feet tall, probably. So it was just very, very difficult for Cook to get inside of that reach. Ends up going the way of Nate there. Unanimous decision, 30-26, 30-26, and a 29-27. Is that right? Is that right?
possibly right.
I don't know how that would be, but that's what I wrote down here anyway. There was one card that was different than the 30-26s. Whatever it would be, I guess if they gave Cook a round, I guess. Anyway, unanimous decision for the late replacement, Nate Gould. Props to both these guys for rolling with the punches here. Cook pretty banged up afterward. Probable a mild concussion, I think, afterward. Took a lot of shots from range. Nothing ever just like completely jarring. Just kind of just that constant jab. He made very good use of it. To Camden's credit, I thought he landed some really nice shots himself when he was able to close that gap. He arguably landed the hardest impactful punches of the fight. So shitty situation all around. Props to everybody for being able to make something out of nothing. What's your take here before we roll on?
Yeah, and if you look at the pictures that were posted up this evening of the fight, you'll see some of those shots that Camden Cook. They were grabbed by photographer Alan Poole. This was very much a back and forth match. I mean, when you would think Camden Cook maybe nearing the end or a standing 8 or possibly even the ref stopping or stepping in and waving it off, he would rebound and he would come back and start landing some heavy shots that would jar Gould's head all the way back. So it was a back and forth fight. It just seemed when Camden was at the other end of Nate the Savage's offense, it was for longer periods of time, lots of combinations, like you said, backed up against the cage. But then he would just come out like a lion, hard. But I hated the way it turned out. But regardless of what the scorecards look like, I mean, it was a back and forth battle.
Mm.
And it ended up being one of the better fights on the card. Um, Camden Cook, ironically, at the end of the night, received the Tennessee National Guard Toughest Hickory Award on the losing end of a contest because they were so impressed with not only how he handled the situation, how he still faced, the adversity of, having this switch happen to him against a bigger guy. And to them, it was a no-brainer, and he won the Tennessee National Guard Toughest Hickory Award for the night, and definitely deserved it. Me, as soon as you said we've got a problem, uh, Rowan was the first thing that popped in my head. I mean, it really,
Not
like,
the first time they've jumped in
yeah,
there.
like I don't know who, but go find Rowan, because that, for one, they rolled deep, so there's
Yeah.
probably 7 or 8 of them there. And if there's a way to figure it out and work it out, like you said, even Everhart was trying to work it out. He was like, "I'll do it if we can figure this out."
Yeah.
Um, and the whole team is out in each other's cars looking to see who's got some shorts, who's got some mouthpiece. Like, what do we got? And all we had to do was find a brand new mouthpiece. But and again, for those that may be watching or listening, thinking, what kind of shenanigans was this? This is the way we saw it. For one, we knew Scotty Everhart just competed for us, and we checked his blood work, and his blood work was fine in his last fight just 3 weeks ago, and it was new. So he was good to go had he stepped in. And under the kickboxing rules, after Nick Gould decided to step in, we knew what was not required and under these K1 kickboxing rules. So we were good to go on both of these situations and not forcing something that should not have been allowed to go. But Nathan Savage still, he was new to us. He put on a show. Apparently he's got this rap career, and I've checked out some videos online. I'm intrigued by this whole situation. And it looked like they never competing the team and anybody in the house
Pretty good.
that knew Nate Gould was excited to see him compete and step in there. They thought it was just a really cool treat to see him step in. But again, we talked about it earlier with Jacob Seymour. I hope this Cook's team, comes back and allows us the opportunity to try to, even though it was out of our control in this situation, try to do better by them by finding a more solid opponent. That was just odd, for one, like you said, there's no sense in putting the guy's business out there. But what I don't mind putting out there is there a possibility it was bullshit? Yep, there's a possibility it was bullshit. It's not
At the end
for
of
us.
the day, he came to
Yeah.
the venue and he left.
Yeah, it's not for us to decide, but let this be a lesson to you, especially, a small amateur card where there's only, a handful of, I mean, honestly, as soon as the rules meeting was over, he was right there in that middle of the card, or it should have been before, getting taped up fairly early. Like, don't leave the venue. So even if crazy situations happen that could be construed as not believable, had you not left the venue, those don't happen. If it truly did happen, those weird ass things won't happen if you just keep your ass in the venue and decided not, you're not a pro yet, and pros fighting later in the card have done this before. It's even scary when they do it. We try to encourage them, don't leave. You never know what could happen. But man, just starting out, you should have just kept your ass in the building, and we wouldn't have had to deal with. But again, without putting his business out there, I'm saying from the get-go, if you look at it, missing weight, giving up a point, is the only way he could agree to. A lot of things were against him at that point, and these Cooks guys looked the part, and they looked good. Not saying he did it on purpose, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some nerves or anxiety at this point built up in how everything was just shaping up. We'll never know. We'll never know.
I'd like to see how Camden Cook does in MMA at 125, because he does look like he's going to be a handful when we finally do get to
Absolutely. See him. You don't know what his game is. I mean, again, this K1 may have been out of his wheelhouse. He could have been a hell of a grappler, and the majority of his game plan may be getting his hands on you, getting you to the ground, and have slick ass submissions that he was not able to use. And at 125, we've look at Bryce Warner, who we've got, Jamie Lloyd, who we've got, Umana, uh, uh,
Maverick. Yeah.
Maverick, all these guys. It's a division that we've had here lately. It's been really hot.
Hmm.
So it would be awesome to be able to slide him in there. Um, we're just going to have to probably keep him with those names that we just named off because those guys have been reliable for us.
Yeah, I agree. Austin Swink's another guy that comes to mind to
Austin
be a pretty good
Swink,
one.
yes,
Right.
absolutely.
All right, up next, the aforementioned Captain Anson Phillips in action for Rowan Wrestling Academy, looking to keep the run going. I believe at this point in the evening, we had reached a point where if you go back to the last show, Rowan was on about a 7 fight run. It was just an absolute heater. And Anson Phillips, the captain, looked to keep it going here at 165-pound catch weight as he took on Wolves Den's Cameron Moffitt. And Moffitt, really, really tall young man at 165 pounds. He's about 6'3". And, Adam Sylvie had, spoken very highly of this young man. And, I said from the beginning, it's like, Anson Phillips pretty tough debut. This is going to be it's tough guy to take your, first fight with. And they never even hesitated, man. He said he wanted Cameron to be tested and see what this is all about. So kudos to him. And Anson Phillips certainly showed him what it's all about here as he moved to 3-0 now with a pretty dominant showing here. Ground and pound TKO round one, about a minute and 30 in, right at the halfway mark. Said moves to 3-0, heading down to 155 now. The captain has put himself in conversation.
Yeah, definitely hats off and kudos to Moffitt. Like you said, that a team of his knew going in that this was going to be a tough fight. A tough opponent, but sometimes that's what you got to do with these young kids. And I don't know Moffitt, personally, but so I've seen it before. These young kids come in and they think they're ready, and sometimes you'll have a coach and a team who goes, "I'm going to show you the worst scenario and what it's all
Right.
about, and let's see if you're really about this. Let's see if you're going to put in the work and stick with it. Let's see if you face adversity. Do you come back on Monday morning?" Kind of thing. And it sounded like they wanted him to see that worst case scenario right now and to see where he's at. And I hope Cameron Moffitt, I hope he's back in the gym on Monday with the same attitude they'd had before he came into this fight. Because I'll be interested in to see him again. But Anson Phillips, like I said, the captain is now 3-0. This was a catchweight fight, headed down to 155. This puts him in a position where, not knocking any of his past opponents, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but I'm ready to see Anson Phillips in a banger, in a barn burner, in a straight up, uh, 50-50 type. I don't know who's going to win
Mm.
fight. And at 55, that's where those fights are going to happen. And we'll talk about a possibility here in a little bit. But at 55, at 3-0, it's time to get what we would call that marquee amateur fight ready for Anson Phillips. But the feel good story with Rowan Wrestling continues. They started out as the little gym that couldn't, and then they progressed to the little team that could. They're just not there yet, and they have over the past few months really gelled into now the team that can and are. And it's been a really cool thing to see, to go from the team that could to the team that is. And so it's been awesome watching just the evolution of Team Rowan. And I'm not saying it's the reason, but the things that are going on over there with that team, and and Anson Phillips is the captain. They call him the captain, but Corey is definitely one of the pillars of the group, and just the serious stuff that he's going through and how the team has rallied around him and his daughter and his family. It's just brought them all so close together. You got to wonder if it's just like really, in that 6 degrees of separation kind of way, like been a part of what has brought them together, because they all care about each other so much as individuals and as, extended family members almost, that the sun's shining on Team Rowan right now, and it's a cool thing to watch. But it's time, man. It's time for to see an undefeated 3-0 Anson Phillips in one of those marquee type amateur bouts.
Talk about some potentials there as we go here. Feature bout up next, set for 170 pounds. Cole Tucker out of Lawrenceburg Combat comes in at 2-1 to take on the debuting Anthony Collins out of the aforementioned Rowan Wrestling Academy as they win three in a row here on the main card. And Anthony Collins, a debut here. Purple belt though, so experienced grappler. Cole Tucker, like I said, come in at 2-1, so a little bit more experience in the MMA realm. Tucker overweight, I'm informed, and so it's another situation where we had a point deduction to begin the fight. And of course, that did not matter as this one comes to an end 48 seconds into the first round. Cole Tucker hits a big knockout win to move to 3-1. And, Cole was, once he kind of got loose out there, you could tell he was hunting that big knockout. You could tell he's got real good power in his hands. And he's one of these guys that's going to go out there and just it may not be the most technical performance. You're gonna brawl if you're out there with Big Cole Tucker. Anthony Collins, I'd like to see him again for sure. Really easy to work with. A guy that it'll be a tough 0-1, I think, for whoever runs into him next.
Yeah, I had mixed feelings about this one. As a promoter, it's hard not to dwell on and I'm just going to say it, the grotesque miss of weight. I mean, Gamma. This isn't like your typical sanctioning bodies or where they have a 1 point allowance. I mean, Gamma affords the amateur fighters a 1.9 allowance. Almost a full 2 pounds, and we were still over 4 pounds over the allowance. It just puts a bad taste, all around. And I feel for the other person that's always on the other side of this because you have trained, you want to compete, but there was no secret what kind of fighter Cole Tucker was, and he was 100% okay with a point deduction because he made it clear, when we were negotiating whether or not they were going to make him go cut or not. I'll give up the point because I'm just going to knock him out. I'm just not going to go to the judges. And I was
because
myself,
I've lost anyway.
yeah, I was thinking to myself, well, if I'm Anthony Collins' crew and I just heard you say that, then fuck that. Go cut something for the next hour, if that's where we're going to end up anyway. So, I mean, I hate seeing it because the Collins crew and those guys, what are you going to say? What do you know? We came all this way. We've trained. We're not going to do it. No, these guys are fighters. They want to fight. And so they're kind of just stuck in that spot where you almost begrudgingly just have to agree to whatever to make the fight happen. And so they were definitely thankful. I did, overhear them talking and to somebody else, the fact that we have started implementing this 1 point deduction. So there is at least some sort of, since there's no monetary penalty that you can do as an amateur, that is just not a oh well type of situation with us anymore. You're going to give up something, but as far as what happened in the cage, absolutely, Cole Tucker looked great. He's a savage in there. Hopefully he can get this. He hasn't fought in a while, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt. It's been a while since he's gone through cutting weight, and when he's on his game, he is on his game, and he showed what he's capable of once he got into that cage and the door locked, and that's putting his opponent down. So let's just hope that he gets this first fight back, the whole weight cut behind him, and zones in on that next time. I don't know what you think. He's just got to get it dialed in because there's no way he's going up to 185. Not with some of the bodies that we've seen competing at 185 for us. So he really doesn't have any choice but to just get his shit together when it comes to the weight and compete at 170, because I don't think that's a smart move to say, fuck it, it's too small for me, and go up. But he damn sure was almost there. He was almost there, actually. But anyway, I mean, hats off to him for getting the job done once he got in the cage. Please don't punch me because I say this, Cole Tucker. But, it does just kind of taint it a little bit, the circumstances before we got into the cage.
Asterisks. Well, I say this, originally slated to be Cole Tucker versus Lucas Cox in this bout, and Lucas had to withdraw, but it was a fight that Cole said that he was excited to have, still would like it in the future. Lucas Cox said the same, so that may be lazy matchmaking, but maybe not. I think that could be one that I think people would be excited to see, right?
Is there such thing?
Right.
Is there such thing? And just for the record, though, Lucas Cox and Craig French were in attendance, and
Hmm.
they had offered to jump in on that Camden Cook fight when it fell out. But I told them that it wasn't gonna. We couldn't do that.
That they're a little big.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, up next, the co-main event of the evening. For the first time, we did K1 rules in our co-main event here. The ladies took the stage as Rima Wad out of Ben Kiker's United Karate Studios took on Crystal Massey from DJ Mackey's Crossville MMA. Yeah, this one was, as we said, it was all action from bell to bell. And it was Rima Wad getting the win and the end, going to 2-0 now. Unanimous decision, 30-26 across the board. We did have a standing 8 count, I believe, in the third round, which would account for that 26 there. But both these ladies, a pleasure to work with. Massey really brought a great crowd with her, and very professional to work with. Rima Wad, she's now 2-0. I see what's next for her. She's one that if you're not careful, Rima sneak up on you. She's tough, and she's so nice. But
Unassuming, definitely unassuming.
unassuming, that's the best way to put
Yeah,
it. But hey, she was fired up. That's the most fired up we've seen her yet, I think, after this one. And her fans and family outside the cage, they were fired up too.
yeah. So just such a classy group of fans, but don't let them fool you. It wasn't quite Andrew Stewart esque, but when Reed won, I mean, I looked up and I was like, "Who's that?" They were coming out of the crowd and going straight in the cage. Like, can somebody stop these people? Like,
Yeah.
is anybody doing their job here? But it was pure excitement. They were excited, and we knew it was put here for a reason. Massey had a massive amount of ticket sales for, especially if you just look at an amateur bout, a K1 bout, a new fighter. A lot of sales for somebody in that position. And Reem, who we worked with before, was not, she wasn't like a whale type of ticket seller online or paper, just because she's kind of new to this. But she was ready to buy all her tickets at weigh-in. So I was like, no, it's okay. They'll be at the door. Her crowd was there too. Just,
Yeah.
just a different way of buying. They didn't pre-buy. They bought at the door because, by gosh, they were there. And so this was that type of bout where you had the battling crowds, the whole fight back and forth in between rounds. If announcer Lance Green said one thing, they responded, and they were there doing what they were supposed to do, and that was standing behind their fighters and getting them pumped up. We said before there wasn't going to be 3 seconds in this fight that a punch was not thrown, and there wasn't. I don't even think we could say there was 2 seconds in a fight where
Yeah.
there was a stall of no punches. It is rock'em sock'em robots, nonstop action, and Reem just always seemed to be a step ahead, or her combinations were just a little bit longer than Massey's. Um, uh, there was just so many times that Matt or Reem, I would say, would just get that one in though that would just jar Massey's head. I think she had the harder shots. Massey was great though after the fight. When she came up to find me after the show, and she was excited because she knew that she had a good performance, and she knew that she made everybody proud with her performance, and she knew the things though to fix. And the first one we talked about, and she agreed 100%, was to breathe. You know, uh, to stop and breathe in a fight. She was like, I found myself holding my breath for so long, because of just the nerves and the anxiousness, uh, and so I think it'll be the best thing for her was being in a fight like that, because things will slow down hopefully the next time for her, and she'll be able to relax a little more.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing both these ladies once again. Maybe next time we're out in Middle Tennessee, a little closer to Massey's home area. Be good to get her back on a card. Let's see here. Main event. We'll wrap it up here. Last take of the night here. Main event, 155 pounds. Dustin Berry taking on Austin Sauls. Berry comes in at 2-0. Saul's 1-1, but off of a big knockout win. Um, uh, uh, just 2 shows back. So a lot of momentum coming in here for Austin Sauls. Dustin Berry, it's been a little bit, about a year and a half since we've seen him. Man, he looked really good. He for one, looked like bulkier, like he looked bigger and stronger. And for two, just I don't know that we've seen this kind of killer instinct, I guess is the word, or just finishing instinct out of him in the past. But he really brought it to Austin Sauls and gets the win in the first round. TKO, minute 42 seconds in, moves to 3-0. Sauls goes to 1-2. A wild, frantic fight while it lasted. There was a possible inverted triangle from while Barry was standing by Sauls. That was wild, and had he been able to pull that off, then I think that would have been one of the craziest things I've ever seen. But ultimately, kind of sacrificed position for the attempt, and Barry wasn't giving it up from there.
Yeah, he really had no option because the only reason why he was up there was because Barry put his ass up there, going for the big slam. Um, it's been so long since Dustin Berry, since I've seen him compete, so it's hard to think back at his style before. But I will say, watching this, I mean, his aggression level and his momentum, he was definitely um, he was coming forward. I mean, it was going to be hard for Austin Sauls to slow down the pace of the fight to try to pull something off or to get his shit off, if we like, as we like to say, because Dustin Berry was going to stay in his face. He was not going to give him a second to kind of recoup, get his shit together. He didn't give him a second to really think about what he could do or what he should do, because he was in his face from the moment that the bell rang. Um, and some fighters, and I think besides the fact that Sauls came off of what at that time was a record, knockout for us, Sauls also, though, reminds me of the type of guy that thrives on kind of that slower pace fight, that he can maybe get a little methodical with, and kind of he's going to get his best shit off as the round progresses. And it's hard to do that. I was talking to my son today about fighting or something, and we were talking about the teep kick, and he was getting the understanding, like, that's about all you can do when you have somebody coming at you like Dustin Berry, and it's not an offensive move at that point. It's just get off of me, get away from me type of move. And Dustin Berry, that's what reminded me of it, is just Dustin Berry coming for you. And that was the type of example that I was trying to tell my son of. That's the type of fighter you have to use that against, because he's not going to stop being in your face. But we talked about it earlier now, and you talk about I'm sure you'll talk to Dustin Berry, because you try to talk to every fighter after a card and recap with them. But it had been so long since we have seen him before, since the last time we saw him. He came into this fight as an independent without a gym that he's is calling home. It's going to be interesting, when you find out what are your plans, Dustin Berry. Was just this a one-time thing, and now we're not going to see you again? Have you got that itch to get back active and compete? Are you going back to a gym? Are you going to get settled somewhere? And correct me if I'm wrong, the Ugogi guys were in his corner for this fight. I mean, so the relationships are still there. So it's going to be real interesting to see what his answers are to those things, because if he does, want to get back, back on the train, if you will, there's some interesting shit out there. And we talked about one earlier, and that's Anson Phillips going to 155. And there's no doubt in my mind that he's getting there. This was his first step down. But to have a 3-0 Anson Phillips from Rowan and a 3-0 Dustin Berry, both sitting at 155 with the same exact undefeated record, that's the shit right there. And that's the type of fight too. When I was talking earlier about wanting to see Anson Phillips step up that competition and get in there, in that type of shit, this would be that type of shit. And just kind of see where the chips fall on this one. I think that would be a hell of a fight to put on.
Oh yeah.
really in just about any of the cities we rotate in and out of.
Hmm.
I think that that's a really good one. So maybe that's something you can start working on there, Timbo.
Yeah, yeah. I talked to Dustin briefly afterward. He asked who held the title at this point. It seemed like that was kind of his next mission. He also told me that he was looking to start getting paid in this sooner than later. So I could see him looking to get in for a title fight, maybe a defense, and then looking to go pro. If he can look like that against another tier up of opponent, then I believe he's probably justified in doing so. So I think it would be a good step up. It'd be the toughest fight for both guys that they've had to date. Dustin did have a good win over Spencer Brandon, who's a tough guy. But yeah, I think it would be the toughest fight to date for both guys. Definitely a statement type win for whoever were to get it. Would certainly be kind of cock of the walk at 155 pounds around these parts for now. So yeah, I'm excited to see what's next for both of those guys. Talking to Dustin, it seems like he's kind of back and forth between like Memphis, Atlanta, and kind of Chattanooga, maybe. So I'm not exactly sure where he's going to land, to tell you the truth. But hopefully, we do not see a year and a half go by before we see him again. And I guess that's it. That's gonna wrap us up. That's our show, man. That's our recap and reaction show for Aries 17. Make sure you have subscribed to the page here. You can see all these fights we just talked about here in 30 days. We post them up here. And in the meantime, Jeff, I guess it'll be a couple of weeks before we're back on the saddle. So I guess we stay tuned for announcements. We should have some big ones, I would think, coming up here in the coming weeks with some scheduling things and some bigger shows on the horizon.
Yeah. Um, summer is upon us, and I got a feeling it's going to be a busy one. Uh, we've kind of, like I said, 3 weeks ago we were doing this, and now here 3 weeks later, we're doing a recap show, and damn it, in 3 more weeks we're going to be on here again, talking about a show, and we'll be figuring out this week kind of what's going to be happening in July, August, or not figured it out, but announcing what's going to be happening here in July and August. We've got a couple of different things we're looking at and options that have peeped their head up. We thought we knew exactly what we were doing, but there's been some interesting angles that could be working their way out. We'll just kind of weigh those out in the next 24 to 48 hours from the point you guys watch this video, and I think we got some sexy things possibly on the horizon.
No matter what, it'll be pretty badass. I will assure you all of that. Late summer is where we tend to shine, it seems. So we'll see if we can keep it up. Hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. For Jeff Hobbs, I'm Tim Lloyd. We'll see you all next week. Peace out.
Yep.